everyone, my name is Megan. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. I hope you guys are doing well and staying safe. Today we are here to talk about all the books I read in January and February. January was an amazing month. I think I read 12 books and then I read one in February. So that's how this year's going. I will try to make monthly wrap-ups if that's what you guys want. However, due to time constraints, I'm just mushing up 2 months together. I have separated the books in their different categories. So we're going to talk about graphic novels first. Then I have some middle grade and more regular fiction slash kind of sci-fi fiction. And then we're going into all the romances I've read. So there will be chapters throughout this video if you want to navigate to specific genres or specific takes on any of the books I read. And yeah, grab a snack, let's hop on in. So I'll go pretty quickly through the graphic novels because I don't usually have a lot to say about any of them on any given day. So the first one I want to talk about is the only thing I read in February, which is embarrassing, but whatever. I read the second volume of Goldie Vance. Goldie Vance is kind of like a Nancy Drew in graphic novel form. I don't really know the target audience of this. It's more than middle grade, but it's kind of middle grade-ish sometimes. I really enjoy these. I like anything that has to do with a mystery. I love the color palette and the illustrations. I think they're fun. They're kind of lighthearted. Not my favorite graphic novel series of all time, but it's like between a 3.5 and a 4-star. If you're looking for something light, mystery, just overall fun graphic novel to kind of either boost up your Goodreads challenge or read in a readathon or just pick up on like a regular old snowy Sunday afternoon, it's definitely something that could fit that. There's nothing specific about the series that makes it stand out to me. It's just a good old time and they're usually on pretty good sale, so that's why I picked these up and yeah, enjoyed it, gave it 4 stars. I also read the Dragon Tapestry by Katie O'Neill. This is the 3rd book in that kind of companion series. This is definitely targeted towards a middle grade age range, but I definitely see everybody enjoying this. Like, the illustrations in this are beautiful. I think that they hold valuable life lessons and just perspectives on the world. I really enjoy the author and the messages she tries to kind of convey through beautiful art and kind of a fictitious world. Like, in this world there are tea dragons and they usually bond very much with one of their masters, owners, whatever you want to call them, and some of them are grieving the loss of their owners because they live such a long time, and transitioning to a new person who will take care of them is difficult. And I think that does reflect a lot of different things in our society, and there are other things such as the characters in these books kind of searching themselves and what they want to do with their lives along with societal expectations, and it's just a lot of different things that the author kind of conveys through her graphic novels. But the real hard hitter for me is the art style and the tea dragons themselves. I wish they existed for real. My house would be full of them if, you know, if they wanted me. But yes, I absolutely adore the series. This is definitely like a 5 out of 5 stars. I absolutely adore it. It's making me want to reread every other book I own by Katie O'Neill, and I might just do that soon enough. Who knows? But yes, great graphic novel. Now moving on, I have this kind of like fiction slash sci-fi book. I don't really know what The Humans is. The Humans by Matt Haig. I think from the Goodreads shelves it was classified as a sci-fi, which I definitely see, but it's also kind of like literary fiction in my opinion. Don't come at me. Matt Haig is an author I have come to love over the past few years. My love for Matt Haig really started with The Midnight Library. I then read The Comfort Book by him, and I knew I wanted to read The Humans this year. It was on my 20 books to read, like in 2022, whatever. This was actually gifted to me as well, so thank you, Jason, for gifting me this book. I gave it 5 stars. Truthfully, I bawled my eyes out at the end of this. There's this particular section at the end which is a very long thing, like long list of things that this character learns, because the plot of this is that we follow this alien that comes to Earth and takes over the body of this man who kind of broke through this huge mathematical equation that could change the world, but the aliens don't think that humans are ready for it, and therefore his mission is to come to Earth and kill everyone who's been in contact with the notion of the equation. But along the way, he obviously has to learn what it is to be human in order to kind of fit in and be able to accomplish his mission. And so he goes from knowing nothing to learning social norms, to adapting to feelings, to understanding that humans have to deal with the concept of death, and knowing that one day you're going to die, and the feeling of love and the hardships and the relationships. And as someone who studies social work, I think this was a very interesting take on like social integration, because a lot of the norms and things we take for granted are things that people from different cultures don't do. Like even in our world, like a North American who goes to Europe or goes to the Middle East will have to adapt, and it's the same way, like the other way around. And I really liked all the commentary on, you know, the different sets of emotions and the hardships that is being human, but also of the wonderful things that come with it. And I will say, at first I was reading it and I was like, I really don't understand what it is. Like, the first couple of chapters revolve around the same things, and I was very confused as to where we were going with it. But once I let myself enjoy the story and really get into it, I absolutely fell in love. And again, for me personally, Matt Haig doesn't miss. I know some people don't like him, don't like his take on a narrow message he's trying to convey and his talks about mental health. For me it works. It might not work for you. It is what it is, really. Then we have a middle grade book, and that is Nevermoor, The Trials of Morgan Crow by Jessica Townsend. This is my third reread of this, and I did this via audiobook. If you've never heard of the Nevermoor series, you've never been on my channel before, so welcome. Nevermoor is a middle grade series that is going to be a pretty significant series. I believe it's at least 7 books long, that follows a main character named Morgan, who in the world where she lives is a cursed child who is set to die on her 12th birthday. However, before that can happen, she is whisked away by this man named Juniper North, who takes her to the land of Nevermoor to compete in trials to become a resident so that she doesn't have to die, and she gets to live in this really cool hotel. There's a giant talking cat. She makes a lot of friends. There are villainous forces at play as well in these books, and to me it's a better, more inclusive version of Harry Potter. So if you have children who you want to like expose to a beautiful fantasy world, I think this is definitely the way to go. I love it, and the audiobook, fantastic. I will be reading the second one via audiobook in February, if you have not seen my February TBR. And yeah, I'm rereading the series in preparation for Silverborn that comes out in October. It cannot come out soon enough. Like, honestly, I'd take it today or yesterday. And yeah, I just love it. It's full of whimsy, and it's definitely like a comfort series for me now. Now moving on to all the romance, because it's what I'm feeling this year. I will talk about the first romance I read because it's via Kindle before I forget, and I need to look up the title for this. Folly for My Fake Fiancé by Emma St. Clair. This one ultimately got 4 stars. It is more of a clean romance. It's a romantic comedy. There aren't a lot of steamy scenes, and I do want to say that because I do read a lot of smutty and steamy books, but this one is not one of them. And yeah, I essentially don't have that much to say about that book because I binge read it really quick on my Kindle, but I just really loved the writing style. It is a little bit cliche, but I just felt like overwhelmed with like, I want to know what's happening, and just like, I was so invested in the story and all the side characters, and it was just such a fun read. It was light, it was fluffy, a lot of cheesy passages, which I love. Obviously this will not be for everyone, but I just think it was a really, really fun book with a lot of fun tropes. Obviously fake dating, it's one of my favorites, and it was overall just a very wholesome romance. Now moving on to the stack of physical books. The first one on the stack, I'm really just going in order of how they're... Oh no! Lord. Let me. I forgot about books that aren't really part of the romance, so let's reverse back. I also read The Hawthorn Legacy by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This is a mystery book, thriller mystery, kind of knives out in young adult form. This is the second book. The first book is The Inheritance Games. The third and final book is coming out this year. If you don't know me, you wouldn't know. I love Jennifer Lynn Barnes ever since I read the Natural series, and this one is not as good as the Natural series, in my humble opinion, but it is very good. So if you've heard nothing about this series, it's essentially following, I think her name is Avery? Yes, Avery, who was kind of struggling financially. Her family situation was not the best, and the only good thing about her, I think, is like academics. And one day she is told that she is going to inherit like billions of dollars, and the only like clause is that she needs to go to not like the hearing, I don't remember what it's called, like the reading of the will, and live with the family who should have inherited the money for 1 year. She does not know this man who passed away and left all her money, and it ends up being a huge game to figure out why she's there, why the money went to her, what is her connection to the family. She's also trying not to get killed by other family members who would have wanted the money. There's kind of like love triangle. It's not a triangle, but between her and two of the brothers. I am Team Jameson. If you're Team Grayson, I also kind of get it, but right now I'm Team Jameson, and we don't know how that's gonna end, I'm guessing, until the last book. This was the continuation of everything that happened in the first one. I gave this 4 stars, and it was a very enjoyable read. It's super fast, short chapters, and I do understand the hype around this series. Another book that's kind of a romance, kind of not, is another audio reread, and that is Geekerella by Ashley Poston. I love this series as the Starfield series. There are 3 books. They're all based off of fairy tales and like Disney and those kinds of things. This one is obviously inspired by Cinderella, but it includes fandom elements. This book has been going around for years, so I'm not going to talk too much about it, but I really loved the audio experience. If you are an Audible member, this is included in the like Audio Plus section, so you don't need to use a credit on it if you were interested in trying them out. I really love this. Originally, I think I gave it like a 4 or a 5 star. I left my rating the same on Goodreads, but it was really more like of a 3.5 objectively. However, I get all the feels. I love anything that has to do with fandom, so it really hits the mark for me, and I do want to reread the rest of the series, and I'm just very happy I was able to go back into this world. Now we're moving on to the romance for realsies. So, the first romance on top of the stack is By Thread by Lucy Score. This is like a pretty chunky book, and it is definitely inspired by The Devil Wears Prada. Ultimately, this book got like a 3.75, 3.75. It is not my all-time favorite romance, but I do want to read more from Lucy Score. It says a grumpy boss romantic comedy. Essentially, this girl gets a job in like a huge fashion magazine, and it is her romance with the like boss, but really this guy is working with his mother. There was a big scandal around his father and inappropriate things, so definitely check the trigger warnings of this book. And really how this all starts is that our main character is working a few jobs to like make ends meet, and one day she's at the pizza shop where she works. This man comes in to meet his mom. They really don't hit it off, and like she writes like F you in pepperoni on his pizza. He gets her fired, and her mom's like, you know what? I'm gonna hire you. And obviously it's kind of forbidden because it's like a boss and this main character, and there's also like a I kind of hate you, but then I'm attracted to you kind of trope. I really liked the setting. I just think it was too long and it could have benefited from not being like almost 600 pages. Yeah, because this is 570 pages. If it was a 400-page book, I probably would have enjoyed it more. However, I do like the banter. I really loved the male main character. This is dual perspective, which I love. And yeah, I would recommend it. I purchased this because of TikTok. Someone had talked about it. Doesn't live up to the hype. Maybe not as much as I expected it, but it's still a good read. The next book I read this past January was The Maddest Obsession by Danielle Laurie. This is the second book in the Maid series. It is a mafia romance. I do want to preface this by saying I purchased the books before I knew how problematic the author was, so I don't want to spend too much time on these books. I will be keeping them and reading the third book, but I don't want to give the author more attention than is deserved. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I will try to leave some links in the description, but it's not the best time. I did really enjoy this though. These books, the Maid series, have been my first introduction to mafia romances, and turns out I like them. I think I gave this one 4 stars. Again, I'm not going to dwell more on this. It is what it is. Kind of disappointing because I really do like this series and I wish I could talk about it more, but the author is not the best, so we're just going to move on. Another TikTok favorite, which I read this month, in January, whatever, is The Cheat Sheet by Sarah Adams. This, again, is more of a clean romance. It is closed door, and I loved it. I really, really loved it. This is definitely like a 4.5. I freaking adored this book. This follows 2 best friends, Bree and Nathan, and you get both their perspectives, which, again, I love it. Bree was a ballerina and got injured, but she's still like doing ballet, and Nathan is a very famous football player. They were friends when they were younger, kind of lost touch a few years in their college years, and then they are back together. Both of them are like, it's mutual pining, but they don't want to say anything in case they ruin their friendship, and then Nathan ends up creating a cheat sheet to get Bree to fall in love with him. It is beautiful. I would reread it any day of the week. This is definitely going to become a comfort read. I absolutely know it. I am also now obsessed with Sarah Adams. I want to read all of her books. And it was just very wholesome and sweet, and I liked how the dual perspective was done. The writing style was great, and I didn't feel like I needed steamy scenes to make this book good. So that's always a win, and I just loved their friendship, and I understood where they didn't want to cross boundaries and that their friendship was more valuable than anything else. I also found it very charming how in love they were with each other, so I highly recommend this one. I then read The Anti-Boyfriend by Penelope Ward, and this cemented Penelope Ward as a favorite author, honestly. I love her books. I love Vi Keelan as well. They're co-authored books, them separately. They just rock my socks. The Anti-Boyfriend is the story, again, it's dual perspective. Can we see a theme here? And it follows this main female character who has a child. She's a single mom, and she lives in this apartment, and she's struggling because she can never go out. She always has to be with the baby. She doesn't have a lot of help, and she's struggling to go back to work. And then her neighbor one day kind of sees her, which this man, Deacon, is fantastic, and he's like, hey, like, you look exhausted. She kind of explains her situation, and he's like, let me go, like, buy you a coffee, let me get you some diapers, I'll help you out. And this kind of turns into a friendship. Deacon is more of no strings attached kind of man, and so there's not anything going on between them at first, and their friendship blooms into a relationship, but then there's all the things that, like, he's not really boyfriend material in his own head, and that kind of causes some issues, as like the Anti-Boyfriend title would suggest. But it's really about like 2 strangers who were like meant to be together, honestly, and how beautiful their friendship was, and how he really wanted to be in this little family's lives, and how it became his little family as well. And also the baby has Down syndrome, and I think there's a lot of good discussions about Down syndrome. Obviously, I cannot speak for the representation or what it is to have a member of your family have Down syndrome, but I just thought that the author handled it in a good way. That's my take, but my take doesn't really matter. But anyways, I love this. Again, pretty solid, like 4.5 romance. Loved it. Really recommend. It's beautiful. It's adorable. Moving on to the best 2 books I've read so far this year. This. The Fine Print by Lauren Asher is a masterpiece, and you can't change my mind. I picked this up, again, because of TikTok. This, again, dual perspective. It follows Ronan and Zara, and basically Ronan is like this really big man, like he owns a kind of like Disney themed park. It's not Disneyland, obviously. He owns a lot of different things. He's like a billionaire. He's rich. He doesn't really like people, and in order to obtain his inheritance, he needs to, I believe, become the director of the park for 6 months, and that's where he meets Zara, who, due to past relationships, has some pent-up anger about things that have happened in the park, and she, essentially proposes, like, a drug proposal for like different things for the park, and they kind of get accepted, and then she gets her dream job inside the park, but that also means she gets to work with Ronan, and it's their romance. I don't want to say too much, but I just think you need to read this. This is definitely like Grumpy Sunshine, office romance, billionaire trope. There's so many incredible things, so many beautiful lines. Their romance was off the charts. I loved how he was super grumpy to everyone but her, and like the attraction, everything in here is chef's kiss. Like, honestly, the fact that, like, I own this and I can reread this as many times as I want is such a comforting feeling. Go out and get it. Get it on Kindle Unlimited if it's there. Just read it. Trust me, read it. Like, I don't have any words. I love it. I will link a vlog, I think, where I read this book and talked about it. Maybe I'm a little bit more coherent there. And the last book I have to talk about is Luna and the Lie by Mariana Zapata. This is my introduction to Mariana Zapata, and I regret nothing. Now I want all her books. I want to read all her books. I was actually hesitant between picking this one up first or The Wall of Winnipeg and Me, and I asked a friend to, like, pick a book out of, like, a lineup. It sounds like my books were on trial. And he picked that book. And so I kind of started the year with this one, and I started the year out with a bang. This was beautiful, phenomenal, incredible, life-changing. I now appreciate slow burn romances so much more. This was amazing, and my god, my freaking god. This follows a main character named Luna, who has a very terrible family life. She's close to her sisters, but her actual parents were trash, and so at the age of 17, she leaves town and ends up working at this auto mechanic shop where this man kind of takes her under his wing. And this is like 6 or 10 years later, where Luna is still working at the mechanic shop, and like 3 years prior to the start of this book, this new person comes in who's called Rip, and he starts to like co-own the shop with this old man who took Luna in. He doesn't like anyone. He's very gruffy. He's not happy at all, and has kind of like no manners and really doesn't care. And it is their romance, and it's just the slow burn, the pining, the mutual love that develops in this book, and the grumpiness that kind of really stays throughout, and the little moments of weakness that Rip shows through this book. Sadly, this is one perspective only, and I think it's in this one I think he calls her baby girl or my girl, and honestly, it had my knees weak. Like, this man is amazing, and there is an age gap. I think he's like 40 and she's like 28 or 30. So that was also interesting, but honestly, I would die to be able to reread this for the first time. I loved it, and I am convinced Mariana Zapata is going to become like my 2022 obsession. So these two authors are going to fuel my fire for the next upcoming months. I just know it. So those were all the books I read during the first 2 months of the year. Let me know in the comments what you guys have read, what you suggest I should read in the upcoming months. And if you don't want to do that, comment anything that is pink. A pink emoji, a pink flower, a pink heart, whatever you want. And I'll see you very soon with another video. Bye guys, happy reading.